Well, hello there. It's me. Okay, what's good, everybody? My name is Olarato, and I have some opinions. I recently went down a rabbit hole. Not even recently, like this morning. Like, what time is it? It's 9 a.m. as we can see, and I went down a rabbit hole this morning. I found out that there's a movement called No Boy Left Behind, and it really, something about that kind of riled me up, and I just really want to talk about it in a way that is like probably biased, but also like I just want to know where you're at. I want you to know where I'm at regarding this movement, and I want to know where you're at. Okay, so the thing that started this conversation for me, I don't want to speak too loudly because then I'm going to exert my energy and then I'm going to be tired. So I'm going to try to be calm and not be as energetic. Anyway, so I am on TikTok doing my morning ritual and I see this video by this girl. I'm going to find her name. Now in this video, this girl talks about how basically she wasn't even talking about the No Boy Left Behind movement. She was basically saying that she will not help her cousin financially today because her and him, the cousin, had the same experience growing up. They were both raised by grandmothers. They were both raised by, hold on, I just want to show you the video. It's this girl. Her name is Zama M. Rat. Her and her cousin both have the same circumstances growing up. They're both raised in a poverty-like lifestyle. They both have the same opportunities. And she did everything that she could to get herself out of it, while he, typical men, did not. He's basically suffering right now, right? And she goes on to talk about how he's even like a criminal, he steals and stuff. Like, that's not what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about is the fact that what got to me when she was making the video, the whole time I was like, yeah, period, like you shouldn't support him because he had the same experiences. Obviously, why should you support your age mate? Essentially, why should you support someone who chose to be lazy instead of doing what you're doing and getting up and changing their life for themselves, right? It makes no sense. But I get into the comments and I was just dumbfounded because everyone was just like against her. Everyone was just against her, and they were basically saying like, oh, like, how can you say this about your family? You know, boys are a bit slower than girls. You know, like, tables turn. What about your luck? What luck? So the comment section to that video really, it scratched something in my brain. It irked me, especially the comment of luck, because going to university, studying hard, and getting a career is not luck. I just want to start the video by saying that that's a very important thing. When UJ starts picking their students, they don't have names in a bucket and just pull out random names. No, they're looking at your results. They're looking at your marks. They're looking at your academic career, and that's how they choose you. So it's not luck. I digress. This is not the point of the video. The point of the video is the most prevalent comment that I saw was, this is an example of the no boy left behind thing because boys are getting left behind. And I was just so confused. I didn't know about this movement prior to this because I'm not really into politics. I don't really know like what's trending. I didn't know that this was a thing. So when when it kept coming up like no boy left behind, I'm just like, what do you mean? What do you mean? It's scary because it's like all my life I knew girls being left behind in history systematically. So when you say all boys left behind, what does that mean? So I started doing my research and I was basically looking up like when they say that boys are left behind, what exactly is meant by that statement. And I'm going to read to you what I found. And I just want to like, this video is basically going to be me unpacking what I found and basically analyzing it from a perspective of not just the girl, obviously, but also someone with a logical brain. I don't know. Because when I was like, I wasn't even planning on making a video. I was genuinely curious when I was researching this. I was like, how are boys being left behind? Because when I think about being left behind, I think about in the past. I'm gonna paint this picture for you, right? In the past, I'm talking 1994 upwards, not just in South Africa, also in South Africa, but not just, we're not gonna contain it here, right? We're gonna talk about internationally. Women or girls were left behind significantly. Do you know what I mean? They were left behind in scary. It was scary. So when women were left behind, No, actually, let me go out, because I prepared my notes. So I'm gonna go with it like the way I prepared it, right? I didn't prepare it like, I prepared it loosely. That's why I'm all over the place, but whatever. So when they say that no boy is left behind, I want to tell you what the research tells me. Basically, boys are dropping out of school more. Boys were performing worse academically. Boys were overrepresented in crime, substance abuse, and unemployment. Boys were less likely to seek help or receive emotional support. I want to talk about each one of those points individually, right? They're saying that boys are dropping out of school more. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and say, because that would just be wrong. I'm not going to say, well, boys are just stupid, because that's incorrect, right? Girls are not smarter than boys. Boys are, like, everybody is smart, right? And I'm not going to also sit here and say that it's okay that when you were struggling in school, the only option for you is to drop out, because I also don't understand that. Like, for me, when you're struggling in school, it doesn't make any sense for you to drop out, because I think that a lot of people really don't take seriously the fact that like school is really the only thing that's going to take you out of poverty. And that's a very important thing that I feel like is people don't know, especially in the context of South Africa, right? Because we see a lot of people who didn't finish school who are successful, but we don't understand that those people are the exception, right? And for me, the most important thing you're going to take away from this video is the fact that when you look at yourself, don't look at yourself as, and this is something that you have to carry with you the whole video, right? Think about that. Every time I say something, you have to think about the fact that you are not a representation of a group. You are you, right? So if I say something, don't take it as she's attacking men. You understand? If I say men are lazy, you're not men. You are you, right? You are Tabang. You are so and so. So if I say men are weak, you can say men can be weak. I'm not weak. I am Tabang. Tabang is not weak, right? So I'm just going to continue. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the fact that we live in a patriarchal world, right? We cannot talk about gender equality and the current state of the world without talking about the fact that we live in a world that was created by men, in a system that was created by men for men. So these are the things that boys are struggling with, right? These are the things that they're struggling with. They don't have emotional support. They drop out of school. They're doing worse than girls in school. This is not, for me, this is like, okay, boys are falling behind, but it's not like enough for it to be a movement. Because for me, I feel like, well, then they should catch up. I don't know like why this is a big deal, right? And then I was like, what were their challenges in the past? Because now I think it is equality, the same as equality, right? So what problems did girls have to overcome for them to now be in the same league as men, right? This is the question that we must be asking ourselves before we can talk about how we can fix it, right? Before we can say that girls and boys have the same issues, because I see a lot of that comment. It's like boys are now how girls were treated in the past. Right? That's what I see a lot in the comment sections, and I don't understand why. Because for me, it's like, first of all, this is not the same thing. Not having emotional support is not the same as being systematically oppressed. And systematically oppressed not in the terms of apartheid, in the terms of gender inequality, right? Because not only were the women faced with other types of oppression, maybe women of all races had different types of oppressions, but mostly black women I'm going to speak about because I'm a black woman and I was raised by black women who were oppressed by racism and then further oppressed by sexism, right? My grandmother, I'm going to give you a typical example. My grandmother could not buy a house. My grandmother could not have a bank account. My grandmother could not work. My grandmother could not vote. And this is not like my grandma specifically. I'm just saying people in her generation, not just in South Africa, everywhere, right? They could not do a lot of things because women were not allowed to. By who? By men, right? So women, if they were going to school, it was for the purpose of learning how to do domestic labor. Now, keep in mind that men of this generation are going to school learning maths, learning sciences, learning the world, learning everything they need to know to be prepared to enter the workforce, right? So if a woman was interested in that, no, Chomi, you are going to learn how to fold laundry. You're going to learn how to make the bed. You're going to learn how to cook. You understand? So they're preparing you as a woman to be someone's domestic worker while they're preparing the man to be someone's boss, basically, right? To work in the betterment of the world, right? So if the system is that way, then it automatically means that when these children who are raised in that, like, in that world grow up, this one is going to be a housewife, this one is going to be a provider, right? Because that's the main thing of patriarchy, is that men are providers, women are homemakers, right? That's fine. If that's how you want to go out, that's fine. But it's important that women have a choice and not forced into the box, because that's what they were. They were forced into the box. You don't have any choice but to be a provider. Now, I want to talk about the fact that when this system was in its peak, when the patriarchy system was in its peak, no one complained. Okay, I'm not saying, and for me, that's why I'm saying that I feel like I don't want to sit here and say that, because then my argument would be invalid. I don't want to sit here and say, well, men today are lazy, or men today are not smart, or whatever, because men are men and they've been like this from the dawn of time, right? So when the system favored them, when they were the only ones in positions of power, when they were the only ones competing for promotions and the only ones bringing in the money in the household, they were fine. They didn't need emotional support. They didn't feel the pressure that they're feeling now. They didn't feel the need to make it stop, right? They didn't feel the need. But now that women are also rising to the occasion, and women are also starting to now enter the workforce, and now they also, I'm going to give you two practical examples now. There's the life of a modern woman at work, and there's the life of the modern, let me not say modern woman, let me say a modern couple at work, and the life of a modern couple at home. And I'm not at work, there's no couples. I'm just going to say a man and a woman at work, how they interact, and a man and a woman at work, at home, how they interact, right? Sharp. At home, women are raised. So there's this important thing. There's an important thing that they mentioned here. They said, in the world of equality, when everything is finally equal, men are underprepared while women are overprepared, right? This is the consensus people are saying. Why did they say that? It's because women were raised to become homemakers, and then the world evolved and allowed them to enter the workforce, right? Now they're working now, and they can now also become the providers, basically. So you cannot then become a provider and then come back and become a homemaker. What is your husband doing? You understand? So now the husband feels useless, because now when you get home from work, you can't just say, well, I'm from work, because also your wife is from work. You understand? Okay, let me make a typical example. If we are in a race, right? We are gonna race, and only people who are slow have been racing their whole lives. They know that they don't even need to put that much effort in, because it's been them all along. The winner's always going to be the winner, and they're all going to eat at the end of the day. So they don't even put that much effort into it. When you're used to a system that benefits you, you don't put in as much effort. Even if you can, even if you can't, it doesn't matter, because you're going to get the job regardless, right? So there's no competition. The fly around me, guys, please ignore it. I'm going to try to not lose my mind. Anyway, so when you live in a place where your mediocrity is rewarded, and I'm not saying that the men, everybody who was working during those times in the 1800s, in the 1950s, whatever, was mediocre. No, I'm saying that there was no need for them to be better, because the competition wasn't that great, right? So for example, they're saying that girl children do better in schools, and boy children are now falling behind and also dropping out as a result, right? I feel like that comes from the thing that boy children have always done bad in school. It's just that the girl children were not there, so we couldn't like compare it to anything. So we would just say, oh well, that's, you understand? So if I'm mediocre and my whole team is mediocre, then the bar is low, right? But if someone else comes in and sets the bar higher, then we can now see that, okay, these people are actually very weak compared to, intellectually, right? Compared to the girls, right? This is a hypothetical situation, guys. Don't shoot me in the comments. I'm just a girl, okay? So now that the bar is set higher, we can now start to see that, okay, these people are starting to fall behind, not because of society, not because of pressure. It's because they've always been falling behind. We just couldn't see it because they were the only people participating, right? So for me, the issue doesn't come when people are falling behind in school, because if you are falling behind in school, like I said, you need to treat yourself as an individual and not as a boy. You can't say boys are good at math and you're not good at math. Talk about yourself, Tabang, you're not good at math, right? And that's okay. What can you do to improve it? What can you do to fix it? That's not something that people don't want to do. Now, I feel like, for me personally, I feel like the people who are backing this movement, most of them, not all of them, because I do understand that boys lack, they lack emotional maturity and emotional regulation, and they don't feel like they have the support systems, right? I have to talk about everything. I feel like I should have organized them like in categories. Like, let's talk about emotional availability, let's talk about whatever, right? I feel like I should have done that, but I didn't do that, right? So it's fine. I feel like the whole thing, some people use it as a way to avoid accountability. They weaponize their victimhood. They use this to make themselves the victim, when in reality they are not the victim. Because just like that girl's cousin, you had the opportunities, you had the resources, and you chose not to use them, right? That's what I feel in my heart of hearts. Because for me, if you are in school, I'm going to speak about myself, right? I was a student who sucked at math, right? From grade 7 all the way until fucking matric, right? I was never good at math. I don't even want to talk about mathematics because it's never been my strong suit. But I'm not going to say if I wasn't supported, because it's not even like I was. It's just like I understood the fact that if you want to get to where you want to get in life, you have to fucking pass math. You have to get it done. You can't just say, well, I'm not good at math, and just don't go to school anymore. You understand? I understand the part that you have to go to school in order to get the life that you want, right? Especially if you're coming from a middle class background like myself, or even a lower class, especially if you're coming from lower class background. Because what do you think is going to happen with you? Realistically, like, for me, people who don't take school seriously, I'm pivoting again, I'm sorry, but people who don't take school seriously piss me off, because especially if you're in the low class or middle class, because where do you think your life is gonna go? You can do whatever you want. Anyway, they avoid accountability. And I was making this example about this thing of avoiding accountability, whereby when, let's say, for example, I have a tavern, right? I have a tavern, and in this tavern I sell alcohol. My people don't care. They just want alcohol. They leave. They don't sit down. They don't do anything. I don't even have chairs. You understand? So I've been successful. I've been successful for years. As a staple, everybody knows, this is where you get alcohol, right? There's no competition in my area. There's nothing. I'm the only person. I'm goated, right? And then next door, or maybe front opposite, whatever, they also started selling alcohol, right? They start off like me. I'm like, oh, we're cool. And then next week, they start bringing in couches. They start building a toilet. They start bringing in speakers. They start bringing in TVs. And instead of saying, yeah, why didn't I have a toilet this whole time? People drink alcohol, they need a toilet. Instead of saying, well, why didn't I have seating? That would make sense if I had seating. People want to sit down and drink their alcohol. Why didn't I have... You understand? Instead of saying that and being accountable and saying, how can I better myself? Let me go to this person, ask this person, what are you doing to better yourself? This is really good. Your business is booming. Obviously, the customers are going to go there now, right? So why am I not now going there as well to ask, Chomi, Marawena, how did you do this? What? Instead of that, I'm going to say, no, this person needs to leave. No, this person is ruining my business. They need to leave. That's refusing to take accountability. Do you understand? That's refusing to take that's what not taking accountability looks like. You're avoiding the inner work. And I feel like the issue with boys falling behind is specifically that part. Is the fact that you don't want to take accountability. You don't want to recognize that you are an individual, right? Instead of taking accountability for the fact that I suck at math, what am I going to do about it? Instead of saying, I'm not good at school right now, what can I do about it? Can I study more? Can I go to a different school? Maybe try something with my hands? Can I learn a different skill? Instead of taking accountability and taking control of your own life, you now want to drop out of school and then say, look, guys, I'm left behind. They left me behind. Boys are being left behind. I'm an example of that. Is that, do you understand? And then you have to now fall into that category of boys who are left behind and have people pity you, right? And have people pity you and give you donations and what? And then what? What's going to happen with your life? People don't want to take control of their life. People don't like to be... I feel like so many main issues. The main issue is that boys don't like competition. And that is coming from a point of, they their whole lives, and their role models, obviously their fathers, their grandfathers, they never had to compete with women, because women were never in the workspace, women were never in schools, they were always at home, right? So they never had to compete with them for anything. So now that we are competing with men, and they're losing at that, like how many women are in parliament right now? I'll wait. Do you get what I mean? How many women are teachers? Most of them. Most women are teachers. Most teachers are women. I'm not going to lie to you. Why? Because it's a nurturing role. Because it's nurturing. It's raising children basically in a professional setting. So men don't want to do that. They want to lead the world. But as soon as a woman comes in to say, for example, the whole debacle with maths and science, they said science is over congested with women. How can science be over congested? Bitch, what the fuck are we talking about? What are we talking about? Over congested with women. Now science is not that serious anymore. That's another thing I realized. I don't want to pivot too hard on this, but as soon as a career field gets popular in the women industry, it starts being unserious. And now they can't do the same thing with medicine, because they've always been medical doctors. Men have always taken over medicine, and now that most of the graduates, I think it was 2025 or maybe something, I don't remember, women. Now it's over congested with women, and the boy child is falling behind. Why is the UKZN did not say boys cannot apply? Nah, UKZN, I think it was UKZN, I'm not sure, but the universities don't have a gender inequality thing going on, right? They don't care who applies. They don't control who applies. They don't control who graduates. They don't control anything. They control who is here. They are talking about who is here, who is studying, who is submitting, who is working hard to reach their goals. And at the end of the semester, at the end of your course, at the end of your whatever, if there are no men in the room, it's not the responsibility of the university, and it's not the responsibility of the girls to now shrink themselves for your comfort, because now you decided to not go to UKZN to study medicine. How is it my problem? And then why is it that now my success must be overshined by the fact that there are no boys in the lineup? Whose fault is that? Where are the boys? So I think that it's a lot of things, right? And I don't want to close this off with like being misandrist, even though I am. I'm sorry if I'm being biased, guys, but anyway, I'm not gonna close this video. I'm not ready to close the video yet, but I'm just saying that I'm trying really hard to be neutral here, but it's very difficult because I really don't see how we can have this epidemic, right? Because for me, they say that women are overprepared and men are underprepared. That's another topic I want to get into, right? Because for me, I feel like, how can men be underprepared if they had a head start? Underprepared in what? And they always was like, oh, men are like expected, the expectations for men are higher. They're expected to be providers, they're expected to be protectors, they're expected to be self-sufficient. Men are not self-sufficient. Men can't even wash their wardrobes. They can't even clean. They can't even cook. I'm talking about most men. But like, how can you say they are self-sufficient? Now, they're saying women are self-sufficient, right? Because they are over-prepared. But how can I be over-prepared when I just recently got into the field? Because recently, it's not that long ago, guys. It's not even like 50 years ago where women were allowed to now study actual things that can lead to actual careers. So if I just started 50 years ago, if I just started doing this 50 years ago, how am I over-prepared? Just because I also know how to do my own domestic labor does not mean that I am prepared to also now do sciences. Whereas boys have been doing this their whole lives. They did this their whole lives. Yeah, they did this their whole lives. And they also got to go home and watch their mothers do domestic labor. They also got to go home and probably was able to do domestic labor, just that they didn't want to because they didn't feel like it was their role. So now that everything is equal, they're forced to also be able to do domestic labor. They don't want to, right? They don't want to, and then they're going to say they're underprepared. Okay. Let's see what else I got here, girl. There's like two more topics that I'd like to make a debut in this conversation. Is that, first of all, men are punished more, right? And then secondly, what is it called? Oh my god, their punishment is like personal. Is that what they said? I don't even remember what they said. Hold on. There's more punishment than support, and that their failures feel more personal. Right. I'm going to talk about the fact that men are punished more. You tell me. I'm going to make a quick example. Now we're talking about children, right? You're talking about like a 15-year-old, maybe 13-year-old to upwards to 18-year-old, right? For me, I don't know how a child can be punished like in a way that I don't understand what they mean when they say boys are punished more, because I feel like everybody is punished equally, especially like in high school, right? I'm going to talk about high school because that's when people start maturing, and that's where these conversations start like actually coming up, whereby, let's say for an example, you do something, right? Let's say you fail. No, I'm going to make a quick example. You fail your grade. You fail grade 9. You know maths in grade 9 is hectic. So you fail grade 9. What do you think must happen? I feel like it's not even, I don't even feel like it's punishment. I feel like you fail grade 9, you have to repeat the grade. It's not punishment. It's for you because you could not pass grade 9. You have to do it again. And then you have to, like, everybody does that. It's not just reserved for boys. Like, everybody fails and then you have to repeat the grade, right? Secondly, it's not personal, right? Because they say their failures feel personal. How is it personal? We don't know you. You didn't pass. There's like 3,000 students in the school. We don't know you. They make it seem like a personal failure is like a systematic injustice, whereas women are the ones who went through systematic injustices and overcame it and are now overlapping them. They're now going beyond what they could do, right? Because how is it a personal failure? But then you're also saying, how can you say like, oh my God, I can't even think of an example because it's so ridiculous. But like, how can you say a personal failure is a social injustice? You failed your grade. Also, like, for example, okay, let me do something else. For example, I don't know what could be punished that could make you feel like you're being personally attacked, right? I don't understand how that can happen. But let's say, for example, you go outside and you shoot someone. Of course, you're going to go to jail. And it's not because you're being punished. It's because you need rehabilitation, because you're a danger to yourself and you're a danger to society. So you need to be locked away, right? And if it's a social injustice, kanjani? Because for me, if obviously everyone is not the same, like I said, you are an individual before you are a man, before you are a daughter, before you are a mother or father, a neighbor, whatever. You are you before you are anything else, right? So for me personally, I look at that, and obviously if you look at the statistics, it's going to tell you that most of the people in jail are men, right? Most of the jails occupy men. And you look at that and you think, wow, that's social injustice. How? It's not social justice. It's men. It's individuals who chose to do illegal things and are now in jail, right? So in order for you to not be like that, to not fall under that category, to not fall in jail, to not fucking die or whatever through illegal activities, you have to look inwards. What you have to do is look inwards, right? If I have a son and his father went to jail, let me not even make that example, because for me personally, I feel like people like to shift the blame to women in anything that they want to do. Like, everything is going to go back to women. They're going to say, oh, why are you a single mother? No. So if I was a boy and I saw a lot of people go to jail, I'm not also going to say, well, I might as well go to jail because the system is rigged for boys to go to jail. I'm not going to now make myself a victim and refuse to take accountability for the fact that people have done things that make them deserve to go to jail. I'm going to say, how can I avoid these circumstances? How can I be better than them, right? And you're going to say, well, they don't know how to do that because they don't have role models, or they don't have, role models. For me, I feel like if I was in that situation, if I was that boy, I would say, how can I not be in that situation? And I'm going to look it up and I'm going to say, well, I'll just not shoot people. Well, I'm not going to be one of the unemployed people. Not even like, that's obviously not even a social injustice. That's like an economic issue. It's not even social. It's an economic issue. Everybody's unemployed, bitch. Like, not just men. Oh, anyway, this is annoying me. Anyway, It's not even like an economic, it's like, okay, you're unemployed and what? You know what I mean? I'm just gonna say I'm gonna go to school so that I can not be unemployed, because people are unemployed even when they go to school. And it's not even, and you're gonna take less priority if you don't go to school. I'm just gonna say that. Also, never mind. Anyway, I'm gonna say, how can I not go to jail? How can I not end up with like them? How can I be better? And you're going to look around you. You're gonna say, okay, this one went to jail because he did this. This one went to jail because he did this. I'm not gonna do that, right? And you're gonna say, I don't have any good role models around me. I'm gonna take my phone. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look up some role models to follow on social media. You have a phone. You have a phone. Right? So I'm not gonna sit here on my butt and think that things are just unfair and I can't do anything about it, because you can always do something about it. You understand? And how can you, as people always say men don't have support, that they don't have support, that, you know, their friends, their parents, they're always told men don't cry, they're not encouraged to show emotions, they're not encouraged, so they don't learn how to have emotional regulation. And I think that's very true. And I think that men are very emotional people. I think they're so emotional, right? And I feel like it's very sad that they don't get to express it, and they suppress it, right? They suppress their emotions, right? I feel like it's a very sad case. However, you can't then come to me as a 25-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old man and tell me that you still have this issue, because I cannot excuse how you were raised, right? I cannot say, well, you should learn this when you were younger. No, because you don't have control over who raises you and how they raise you. But as an adult, you have control over how you choose to deal with it. Do you ignore it, or do you go out there and you find a therapist and you talk about it and you learn how to regulate your emotions and you learn how to? Is that what you're gonna do? I think that's what you do. I think that's what you do. Instead of sitting here and telling me, well, and being angry and fucking throwing shit around like a crazy person. Okay. And I read this, I'm gonna read you this thing now. It says, men are experiencing the removal of unlearned advantage and mistaking it for oppression, and mistaking it for oppression, right? Because when you are, let's say, I'm gonna give you another practical example. We're going to swim in the ocean, and you've only ever known how to swim with floaties on, right? Now the floaties are being removed because now there's actual competition in the water and there's sharks in the water, babes. You can't swim with sharks in the water with floaties on. Are you crazy? So the floaties are being removed, and now you're feeling like it's oppression, when in reality you were supposed to be able to swim without them from the beginning, right? Rather than adapting to a system that now rewards competence, emotional intelligence, and self-sufficiency, some choose victimhood narratives that externalize personal and collective failure. Right. I'm so tired of speaking because I feel like I've been speaking for a long time. And I don't even know if I'm going to post this video, guys. If I post this video, I'm going to be so proud of myself. But I feel like it was all over the place. I do feel like it was all over the place. Yeah, hold on, let me see if I can find something else for me. Oh, my mom is calling. Anyway, so that's actually the end of the video. I think I'm done speaking on this topic. I feel drained. I do feel drained, because you know why? I feel like men have this thing where they've never been victims of anything in their lives, especially, like, I'm not gonna say men of color because obviously racism, but in reality, like, men have this superiority complex, and now there's nothing that makes them superior, and they feel really scared about it. They feel sad about it. They feel scared about it. They feel emasculated. I don't know. You tell me. They don't feel good about it, and they're now grasping at straws to try and make it our problem, to try and get a sympathy points so that we can, you know, look back instead of marching forward like we've been doing. I hope the girls continue to eat it up. It's not a competition at the end of the day. I don't think it's a competition of who is more smarter than who, because like I said, I feel like we're all individuals on a fucking planet. Like, we don't even know, we're floating on a rock in space, girl. Like, it's not that deep. You know what I mean? Like, we need to focus on the bigger picture, which is to elevate ourselves. At the end of the day, you're here for yourself. You're not here for anything else. You're not here for anyone else. You're here for yourself. And I feel like once you remove that thing of, now this is for men. I hope men listen. Take notes. Take out your notepad. when you are a man in this planet, on this world, in this system that you have created, I'm sorry, I know that men created the system, but not every man chooses it, and I understand that, and I think that's valid. But if you are a man and you are living in this system that doesn't serve you, you don't feel like you want to be a provider, you don't feel like you want to be a protector, you don't feel like you want to associate with all the things that are supposedly what a man should be, right? You don't want to identify with them. I feel like it's valid, and I feel like you need to stop looking at yourself, the thing that gives you so much pressure in life, and the thing that makes you feel depressed, and the male loneliness epidemic. That, yeah, whatever. Anyway, that is coming from the fact that you don't identify with the lifestyle that has been chosen for you. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to say you're a victim, but you didn't choose to become any of this, right? Someone else chose it. I'm not going to say all men, right? Because some people don't believe that men should be providers. I don't think that men should be providers. I don't think anyone should be providers. I think we should all just try to make it to tomorrow. You know what I mean? So anyway, I feel like it's very important when you are a man in this system who doesn't identify with it. I'm walking in circles. Okay, if you are a man, I think it's very important that you look at yourself as an individual. You look at yourself as Stelo. You look at yourself as Tabo. You look at yourself as Ben, not as Ben the boy, Ben the... not a statistic, not a part of a group, not a friend, not anything. You just look at yourself as Ben, and you say, well, I know that most men prefer to be leaders. I don't prefer to be a leader. And you have to understand that it's okay. You are an individual. Nothing is expected of you as an individual. And once you start to, for me personally, that's what I think helped me overcome a lot of my anxiety, is that as Olerato, I'm not expected to do anything. You know what I mean? I can do whatever I want, and I don't care what happens afterwards, because this is for me. I'm living my life for me. I'm living in my truth. You have to start living in your own truth and live for you, so that you can, at the end of the day, look back and say, wow, I ate that. Like, I did that. Like, that was actually... You know what I mean? And don't live your life and not like have to live your life for other people, because that's where the depression comes in. That's when the pressure comes in. That's where the emotional instability comes in. Because when you start to work on yourself and stop portraying masculinity and stop worrying about how you're perceived and stop I don't know, guys, I'm running out of words to say. This is a lot of English for me, but yeah, basically that's what I'm saying to you. I hope you took notes. Once you start living in your own truth as your own individual person, besides everything else that you are, besides being a black boy, besides being a white boy, besides being a fucking boy from Kasi, besides you are you before you're anything else, and everything, all of that can change tomorrow. I mean, you cannot stop being a black boy, but you know, it could change. You don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. But yeah, I feel like men use it as use masculinity and the system to like not to avoid looking in the mirror. You need to start looking in the mirror. You need to start looking inward and saying to yourself, like, this is who I am, and who I am does not align with this. And if it doesn't align with that, then don't complain to us. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Thank you.